everybody, it's Rebecca here at Y Mermaids, and it's January, so it's that time of the year, and I talk about my best and worst books of the year. This will be split into two videos, so this will be video one, which is my most favorite reads of the year, and I have decided to put this into categories because there are quite a few books. So I'm not going to speak long about them because I've talked about all of them in other videos throughout the year. So without further ado, let's get going. So I actually have 17 books that are my favorite, which was a coincidence, the fact that it's 2017. So I just couldn't pare it down because I liked them. Most of these were 5 stars. There are a couple 4.5 star reads in here, but they were really strong, and so I decided to go with it. So let's just jump right in with Best Fantasy. So I have The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. Just takes the cake for this one. It was amazing. It was the first book I read of the year, and it still stands as the best one for fantasy wise. Like, one of the top ones of the year too, but it was also just definitely the best fantasy. It was really good. I'm hesitant to read book 2 because book 3 is not out yet, so I haven't done that yet. But I just really enjoyed it. If you like fantasy, high fantasy especially, and you have not read this, go do it, because it's amazing. For Best Sci-Fi, I have a Best Adult and a Best Young Adult. So the Best Adult Sci-Fi was Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. That's the one where they go into a box and there's multi-dimensions, and it's really cool. And then the Young Adult one is Invictus by Ryan Graudin, which I just talked about in my November-December wrap-up. And it's time travel, and they go to like historical moments from the past. It's cool, it's awesome, check them both out. For Best YA Contemporary, I actually have 3 books because they were all so good, and they're also very different. So I have I'll Give You the Sun by Jandy Nelson, which is a brotherly sister story, which I thought was beautiful, and I absolutely loved the writing of it and the characters, and it was just so good. I have Eliza and Her Monsters by Francesca Zappia, which deals more with a girl who's creative, and it talks about the whole idea of real friends versus internet friends and online creativity and social anxiety, which I thought was really good. And then of course there's The Hate U Give by Angie Thomas, because it's blown up as everybody's best read of the year because it deserves it, because it's so good. Which, again, if you don't know, deals with Black Lives Matter and police brutality in the shooting. It just really showcases that in a really beautiful way, and it's just brilliantly written, and a book that everybody should read. My best audiobooks, I have 2. One of them, it's actually my shortest and my longest too. So one of them was Boy Tales of Childhood by Roald Dahl, which was narrated by Dan Stevens, and I absolutely loved it because I love Dan Stevens, and I thought the narration was just really good, and it brought me back into this world of like childhood and Roald Dahl, and I just loved it because of that. And then the other one is Before the Devil Breaks You by Libba Bray. I really enjoyed the book, but I thought the audiobook in particular just stood out as amazing. January Lavoie is the narrator, and she does all sorts of voices, and I have a hard time with like fantasy audiobooks, and this one I was able to follow and get into, and I highly recommend it. My favorite memoir was Born a Crime by Trevor Noah, who is the host of The Daily Show. I didn't really know a lot about him prior to listening to his book. I listened to this one, it was an audiobook, but it was just really good. Like, he narrates it himself, and I didn't really know much about South Africa and apartheid and his kind of upbringing and how that was a struggle, and I learned a lot about it, and it was just really engaging and captivating, and I definitely enjoyed it. My favorite nonfiction book was Born to Run by Christopher McDougall. This was also an audiobook, and this one talked about running and this kind of like super athletes that were in Mexico and South America, and ultra runners, and this like lifestyle of running. And as someone who tries to be a runner, it really inspired me, and it made me like want to go home and go for a run every day. So if you like that, if you want to run more, then listen to this book. It kind of gives you some tips, but it also really inspires you. It tells the stories of different ultra runners and how they all come together for this like ultra race down in Mexico. It's really cool. I had no idea about any of this, and I really enjoyed it. My favorite historical fiction was The Nightingale by Kristin because it was amazing. It's World War II, it's in France, it's 2 sisters, it's just, I cried. It was so good. So good. I loved it so much. My best magical realism, again, I have an adult and a YA. Technically this could be fantasy, but I'm making a new category just because they're both so good. And so the young adult one is Bone Gap by Laura Ruby, which I just talked about. Again, both of these in my November, December wrap up, and it was just really beautiful, brilliant. I can't really talk about it because it'll give too much away. And then the adult one in magical realism is Beast of Extraordinary Circumstance by Ruth Lang, which again, it was just so good. It has a character who has an affinity with animals and wolves and multiple perspectives spanning a character's lifespan, and it was kind of beautiful in that weird way, and I loved it. My favorite short story collection is the only one that I read, but I wanted to include this book somewhere, and this was just a category I created for it, which is From a Certain Point of View, Star Wars A New Hope Stories. Again, just talked about this one at my wrap up, and it's all side character perspectives of Star Wars A New Hope, written by a variety of authors, including Pierce Brown, one of my faves, and it's just really good. Really, it makes you like want to go back and watch A New Hope and like look for these side characters, and it kind of makes you just see how rich and diverse that world is, and it's just so cool. My favorite series conclusion is A Conjuring of Light by Victoria Schwab, or V.E. Schwab, which is the Darker Shades of Magic, or Shades of Magic trilogy. I was devastated to have it end because I loved it so much. It was just a really good conclusion to a really fantastic trilogy with great characters, great concepts and world building, and just amazingness, and I just loved it so much. And finally, I have my best full series that I read, and I only read one complete series, and it's only a duology, but I liked it. Both of them got 4.5 stars, and it's the Six of Crows duology by Leigh Bardugo. It's heists, it's a variety of diverse and awesome characters, and I just like blew through them considering how thick they are. That's kind of a big deal, and I just really loved. I loved everybody, every single character in these books, and they're a lot. And they're so good, and they're so well-rounded and so diverse, and just the stories are fun, they're fun to predict and fun to guess, and it's in the Grisha universe too, so it has magic and elementals and just amazingness. Well, that is it. Those are my best books from 2017. If you want any more details about any of them, let me know in the comments, and let me know your favorite book or books, because if you're like me and you can't just choose one. Let me know those down in the comments, and that's it for me today. I'll see you next time. Look out for my least favorites coming soon.